Welcome to Revisit Books Podcast, where we turn books into bite-sized wisdom you can use every day. Today, we're really digging into the mindset and, well, the sheer force of will represented by David Goggins. We're looking at his core mission, how to unshackle your mind, ditch that victim mentality for good, and build something truly unbreakable inside yourself.
Yeah, and this isn't just, a set of nice ideas. It feels more like a blueprint, almost a radical one, for changing how you think and operate.
Definitely. And what gives it so much weight right off the bat is who the author is.
Exactly. David Goggins isn't just theorizing here. I mean, the guy's a retired Navy SEAL.
And not just a SEAL. He's the only person, apparently, in the entire U.S. Armed Forces who completed SEAL training, Army Ranger School, and Air Force Tactical Air Controller training.
It's an incredible resume. So when he talks about limits, physical or mental, he's speaking from a place of having, smashed through them again and again.
Totally. You look at the other stuff, competing in over 60 ultramarathons, triathlons, ultra-triathlons. It's like he made embracing suffering his actual job description.
Right. And the approach laid out in his work reflects that. It's pretty stark. You have to accept suffering, you have to repeat the hard stuff, and you have to consciously, deliberately callous your mind.
Which brings us to maybe his most controversial point, the one that really challenges a lot of modern self-help thinking.
Yeah, the whole motivation is crap line. It sounds like hyperbole, but he seems dead serious.
He argues it's all temporary, right? Pep talks, quick hacks.
Yeah.
They give you a boost, maybe, but they don't actually change your brain's wiring. They don't last.
Exactly. It's like a sugar rush versus, building real metabolic health. He says that feeling good for a few minutes isn't the goal. The goal is sustained capability.
And how do you get that sustained capability, according to him?
By actively seeking out pain, by falling in love with suffering, as he puts it, and through that process, acquiring what he calls an armored mind.
An armored mind.
God.
It sounds intense, almost ancient, like a Spartan ideal or something.
It really does. He presents his own life story almost like a test case, like an evolutionary algorithm, showing what happens when you push yourself to the absolute max.
And he uses everything, doesn't he?
Yeah.
Racism, injuries, personal tragedy, a really rough childhood. It all becomes fuel.
Yeah, that's key. It's not a list of excuses or burdens. For him, it's the raw material for transformation, for metamorphosis. He shares it to show you, the listener, what you're actually capable of if you stop holding back.
He also brings in that quote from Heraclitus, which kind of sets the stage.
Oh, yeah, the one about the 100 men, where 10 shouldn't even be there, 80 are just targets.
9 are the real fighters.
But only one is a warrior.
That quote really frames it, doesn't it? He's teaching you how to become that one warrior.
By systematically fighting your own instinct for comfort, most people, he implies, just drift along, being targets. Becoming the one means declaring war on your own default settings.
Okay, so if this whole approach is so demanding, so deliberately uncomfortable, who is this actually for? Who's going to pick this up and think, yes, this is what I need?
Well, he's pretty explicit about it. He says it's for anyone in danger of living a life so comfortable and soft that you will die without ever realizing your true potential.
Wow, okay. So a direct challenge to complacency.
Absolutely. If your main goal is ease, convenience, taking the easy route, Goggins basically says you're squandering your potential and you need a serious wake-up call.
That feels like it could apply to a lot of people. But are there specific groups who might find this particularly resonant? You mentioned turning trauma into fuel earlier.
Yeah, I think that's maybe the most powerful application. If you're dealing with really tough stuff, past or present abuse, serious debt, divorce, depression, obesity, whatever it is, Goggins offers a radical reframing.
How so?
He talks about being dealt a bad hand. But instead of seeing it as a lifelong disadvantage, he says that's the very thing that, if you play it right, becomes your source of strength, your fuel for metamorphosis.
So the suffering itself becomes an asset.
In a way, yes. The logic is, you've already endured incredible hardship. That means you have a deeper well of resilience than someone who's had it easy. You just need to tap into it. You take stock of the pain, but then you flip the narrative. It's not, I'm broken because of this. It's, I'm powerful because I survived this.
That's a huge mental shift. What about people who struggle academically or just with holding themselves accountable? His own story about learning is pretty raw.
Incredibly raw. He's brutally honest about being functionally illiterate for years, cheating his way through school just to pass.
For 8 years, right?
Yeah, 8 years, which created this massive gap in his actual knowledge. And his big realization was that he'd been fooling himself, looking for shortcuts that didn't exist.
So when he finally decided to tackle it, what did he do? It wasn't some quick fix, was it?
Not at all. It was the opposite. Painfully painstaking, really. He basically locked himself away with textbooks.
And just read them.
Read them and then physically wrote out every single page, sometimes 2 or 3 times over, word for word.
Wow. Why?
Until the information literally stuck, as he puts it, to the mirror of his mind. It forced deep-level processing, transcription, memorization. He knew he wasn't naturally gifted academically, so his only option was to outwork everyone else, exponentially.
That's an insane level of commitment. He essentially brute forced his way to literacy.
He did, and it worked. He went from maybe a 4th grade reading level to a high school senior level in about 6 months. Purely through this relentless, repetitive hard work. No hacks, just grind.
Which connects to the third group, right? The mindset seeker.
Exactly. Anyone who sees those patterns in themselves, choosing comfort, avoiding the hard thing, making self-limiting choices. Goggins offers a framework, a pretty tough one, but a practical one, to fight that natural human pull towards the path of least resistance. If you lack discipline, his methods are like a battle plan.
Okay, so let's dive into those methods, the core tools he developed. What's the first big one? The accountability mirror.
Yes, the accountability mirror. And it's foundational. You can't skip this. It starts with getting rid of your ego.
Getting rid of the ego. How?
By forcing yourself to look, really look at the truth. He says you have to come eyeball to eyeball with yourself and get raw and real. This isn't about positive affirmations or making yourself feel good. It's about 100% ownership of where you are right now.
And the story behind how he started this.
Yeah.
It really sets the tone, doesn't it? That moment in high school.
Oh, yeah. His solo intervention. He failed academically junior year, got a letter saying he basically couldn't advance, and he created this ritual.
Shaving in the mirror.
Shaving and literally yelling at his reflection. Things like, nobody is coming to save your ass, not your mommy. Nobody, it's up to you.
Intense.
Super intense, but it was about forcing himself to confront the reality. He felt like a fraud, physically and academically, and this was his way of stripping away any denial, any rationalization.
And he turns this into a practical challenge for the reader. Challenge #2.
Using Post-it notes.
Right, he tells you to write down all your insecurities, your dreams, your goals, everything on Post-it notes and stick them all over your bathroom mirror so you can't avoid them.
Exactly. He gives examples from his own life. When he weighed nearly 300 pounds, he put up a note that just said, fucking fat. If he felt stupid, he'd write, you weren't smart enough.
That sounds incredibly harsh. Isn't there a danger of just making yourself feel terrible? Constant self-criticism?
It's a fair question, but Goggins argues the point isn't self-loathing. It's about cultivating thicker skin to improve in life. It's not about wallowing. It's about seeing the truth so you can act on it.
So the note fucking fat isn't the end point.
No. Right below it, you put the action, lose 106 pounds in 3 months. The harsh truth is just the starting block, the catalyst. Sticking it on the mirror makes it undeniable, unavoidable. It stops you from lying to yourself. And seeing that truth day after day empowers you because now you have to do something about it.
Okay, so brutal honesty is step 1. That requires a certain mental toughness, which leads right into the second big idea, callousing the mind and the 40% rule.
Yeah, the 40% rule is probably his most famous concept. It's pretty mind-blowing when you first hear it.
What's the core principle?
The idea is that when your mind tells you you're absolutely done, physically spent, mentally exhausted, ready to quit, you've actually only used about 40% of your true capacity.
Only 40%? That seems wildly off. Why would our brains tell us to stop so early?
Survival instinct, basically. Your brain's primary job is to protect you, to conserve energy. So when things get tough, it hits the panic button way, way before you're actually in danger of catastrophic failure. It's a built-in safety mechanism, but Goggins says it's set incredibly conservatively.
So our perceived limits are mostly self-imposed.
Largely, yes, according to this rule. Your brain is designed to make you want to stop long before you truly need to stop.
Okay, so how do you push past that 40% barrier? It's not just willpower, is it?
It's more like retraining that internal governor. You have to systematically, intentionally brainwash yourself into craving discomfort. That's challenge #3.
Craving discomfort, how does that work?
You actively seek out things you don't want to do. If it's pouring rain, you go for a run because it's pouring rain. If you hate getting up early, you set the alarm even earlier. You deliberately choose the harder path.
Why? What does that achieve?
It builds the callus. Every time you voluntarily step into discomfort, you strengthen your mind. Your default reaction starts to change. Instead of automatically thinking, I can't, or this sucks, You develop a more proactive, okay, let's do this dialogue, even under stress.
He gives some pretty extreme examples of this from his Navy SEAL training, Booty S, particularly Hell Week.
Oh, yeah. His experiences in BDS are like the ultimate proof of concept for the 40% rule and callousing the mind. He went through Hell Week 3 times.
3 times. What happened the first 2?
First time, he got rolled back because of double pneumonia.
Yeah.
Second time, a fractured kneecap. So going into the third attempt, he knew exactly how bad the suffering would be.
And even then, it wasn't smooth sailing, right? He got injured again.
During the third Hell Week, yeah. He developed stress fractures in his shins. Shin splints so bad they were actual fractures.
But they still have to run constantly during Hell Week, don't they? Like 60 miles a week or something.
Exactly. 60 miles a week on fractured shins. Seems impossible.
How on earth did he manage that? How do you just ignore that level of pain?
This is where the mental game completely takes over. He talks about this ritual he did every single morning. Super early, he'd use duct tape.
Duct tape?
Yeah, duct tape. To basically create these makeshift casts around his feet, ankles, and lower legs inside his boots. Just to hold everything together enough to run.
That sounds excruciating.
Must have been agony with every step. But the key was, he wasn't just fighting the physical pain, he was fighting his mind's reaction to the pain.
What was going through his head? How did he keep going?
He had this internal mantra. He just screamed at himself constantly. You are 20 minutes in the business, Goggins. You are a fucking machine.
20 minutes in the business.
Yeah, he broke the suffering down. He wasn't thinking about the whole week or the 60 miles. He just focused on surviving the next 20 minutes, over and over, treating himself like a machine, trying to detach from the feeling. The pain was there, but he refused to let it be the main thing he focused on.
And he links this ability to push through extreme pain to our actual physiology, right?
Yeah.
The nervous system.
Yes, definitely. It's not just abstract grit. There's a biological component. When you face extreme stress, your sympathetic nervous system floods you with fight or flight hormones, adrenaline, cortisol.
Oh, fight or flight.
Most people, when they hit that 40% wall Goggins talks about, they choose flight. They slow down, they find reasons to quit, they protect themselves. Goggins trained himself to consciously choose fight.
How does that help?
By refusing to back down, he essentially hijacked that surge of energy. Instead of the adrenaline making him panicked or tired, it became fuel. It allowed him to push past what his brain was screaming was the absolute limit. He learned that the pain signal itself, once you accept it's going to be there, loses some of its power.
Wow. That's incredible control over a primal response. Okay, so we've got the accountability mirror for brutal truth and callousing the mind 40% rule for pushing limits by embracing suffering. But that sounds incredibly draining. Where does the energy, the motivation, even if he hates that word, come from to sustain that fight?
That's where the third key mechanism comes in, the cookie jar.
The cookie jar sounds nicer than the other two.
Sounds nicer, yeah. But it's just as potent. If the mirror is the diagnosis and callousing is the training, the cookie jar is your strategic reserve. It's a mental technique you use specifically in moments of extreme agony or doubt.
How does it work? What's in the cookie jar?
It's a collection of all your past victories, big ones, small ones, doesn't matter. When you're at your absolute breaking point, you mentally reach into this cookie jar and pull out a memory of overcoming something difficult before. It's evidence to convince your struggling mind that you can push through this too.
And a crucial part of this is reframing past hardships, right? Even trauma.
Absolutely crucial. He talks about his horrific childhood, the abuse he suffered. He describes it as like running life's race carrying a 50-pound backpack.
Which sounds like a massive disadvantage.
Right, but he reframes it. Surviving that, getting through it, wasn't the burden, it was training. He says surviving that made him tough as hell and as sharp as a samurai's blade. When he finally took off that metaphorical backpack, he realized he was psychologically tougher and more prepared than people who'd had easy lives. The weight wasn't a weakness, it was endurance training he didn't even know he was doing.
So you turn your worst experiences into your biggest strengths in the cookie jar. What about smaller wins? Do they count?
Absolutely. He stresses this. Small wins are vital cookies. They are the proof points that build belief. He uses the example of overcoming his intense fear of water.
Right, he couldn't swim.
Couldn't swim. Terrified of water. But he needed to pass swim tests for the military. So he taught himself using a Swimming for Dummies book. That's a cookie. Passing a mile swim in Boy Scouts by improvising a backstroke. That's a cookie. Proof of problem solving under pressure.
And the weight loss, too.
Yeah. He mentions that losing the first 5 pounds was a critical cookie. It seemed small compared to the goal of losing over 100 pounds in 3 months. But that initial success proved the impossible goal was actually possible. It gave him tangible evidence.
So you're essentially building a mental library of evidence that you're capable. How did he use this in a real crisis moment?
The San Diego one-day ultramarathon is the classic example, his first 100-mile run. He signed up on just 3 days' notice, zero specific training.
That sounds like a recipe for disaster.
It pretty much was, physically. During the race, his body just completely fell apart. He talks graphically about blood, urine, feces, kidney failure setting in. His body was shutting down, and his mind was just screaming at him, "Why are you doing this?" And quit. Just quit.
That's the absolute breaking point. Most people would and probably should stop there.
Right. But instead of focusing on the pain, the failure, the misery of that moment, he forced himself to access the cookie jar.
What did he pull out?
Everything. Surviving childhood, learning to read against all odds, getting through Hell Week not once, but twice before, even with injuries. He didn't just remember these things passively. He used the feeling, the visceral memory of who he was, what he'd already overcome, to shout down the part of his brain telling him to quit.
And it worked.
He finished the race, ran 101 miles. The cookie jar provided the psychological fuel to push through that remaining 60% of capacity when his body was screaming, "Stop."
That's incredible. And you mentioned the importance of small wins for those of us, who maybe hasn't survived Hell Week.
Definitely. He emphasizes that. Even if your cookies seem small, like finally understanding a difficult chapter in a textbook after hours of struggle, or sticking to a workout plan for a week, you have to acknowledge them, savor them, put them in the jar. Your brain needs those wins, those affirmations of progress, to stay motivated for the hard work, especially when it feels overwhelming.
Okay, this is a powerful framework. Confront the raw truth with the accountability mirror. Build resilience by seeking discomfort and pushing past the 40% rule. And fuel yourself during the worst moments by drawing on past victories from the cookie jar. It's demanding, but it makes sense. As we start to wrap up, what's the bigger picture here? What's the continuous mission he talks about?
The final, maybe toughest lesson is that there's no finish line. You don't arrive at being tough or successful. He says greatness evaporates like a flash of oil in a hot pan.
So the moment you achieve something big.
You have to mentally reset. Go back to base camp. You have to start at zero the next day. The minute you get comfortable, the minute you start resting on your laurels, you start getting soft again.
Which ties into that idea of being uncommon amongst uncommon.
Exactly. Once you reach an elite level in something, maybe you graduate Ranger School, like he did the challenge shifts. It's not about being better than average anymore. It's about finding ways to separate yourself even from the other elite performers.
How did he do that?
Well, after Ranger School, he immediately aimed for Delta Force selection. He realized his land navigation skills weren't good enough for that level, even though they were fine for Ranger School. So he had to humble himself, embrace ignorance, as he says, and become the beginner again to master that skill. It's about constantly seeking the next level, even when you're already near the top.
Okay, let's close with what you call maybe the most provocative lesson, the one that connects all this intense mental and physical endurance back to something deeper, an unseen weakness he discovered late in the game.
Yeah, this is a really powerful, almost cautionary insight that came later. After years and years of this extreme endurance racing, pushing himself relentlessly, he started experiencing severe physical problems.
What kind of problems?
Serious stuff. Compressed vertebrae in his spine. He actually lost 2 inches in height. And the doctors eventually linked it not just to the physical pounding of running,
But to what?
to a lifetime of accumulated toxic stress. The constant fight or flight state he'd lived in, stemming from his childhood trauma and his intense military career, it had taken a physical toll.
So the mental baggage, the psychological stress, literally reshaped his body over time.
That's the connection they made. All that chronic stress led to extreme tightness in a key muscle group, the psoas muscle.
The psoas?
Yeah, they're deep core muscles connecting your spine to your legs, sometimes called the fight or flight muscles because they tense up automatically under stress. His were perpetually clamped down from years of trauma and intensity, basically choking his system and contributing to the physical breakdown.
Wow. What did that realization mean for him? He couldn't just run through that, presumably.
No. It forced a massive change in his whole approach. He had to pivot from just focusing on brutal endurance to incorporating something he'd previously dismissed or even mocked: deep, prolonged stretching.
Stretching after all that.
Yep. He talks about stretching for up to 12 hours a day sometimes, trying to release decades of stored tension in his psoas and other areas. The ultimate challenge became internal healing, the physical consequences of his psychological history.
And the result of that.
That's the final incredible piece of the story. By addressing this deep-seated physical tension linked to trauma, by doing this intensive stretching work, he actually unlocked a higher level of physical performance later in life. He found himself running faster and more comfortably in his 40s, like a 7.15-mile pace, easily, than he could in his 20s.
That's amazing. So healing the internal damage led to surpassing his previous peak.
It proves the point that the mission is never truly over. There are always deeper layers, unseen weaknesses, often rooted in our past or our mental habits. In addressing those, even if it requires a completely new and uncomfortable approach like stretching was for him, can unlock potential you didn't even know you had.
So the final message is really about that relentless, evolving fight for your own life.
Exactly. Be willing to fight for it. Pursue what you're willing to earn, not just what you think you deserve. And be willing to constantly reassess and tackle the weaknesses you didn't even know were holding you back.
It really makes you think.
Mm.
If extreme physical breakdown can be the body finally screaming about deep, unseen mental trauma, what quieter physical symptoms might you be ignoring right now that are signals for change? That's a heavy question to leave with. That's today's breakdown. While this discussion cannot replace the book's full text, it can offer a glimpse into its teachings. I hope you found this discussion helpful, and I look forward to sharing more. Let me know what book next you want to discuss.